Howdy, folks. I'm an II in a mariachi band singing Cielito Lindo,
I'm Amber.
and here's some Reddit. All right, folks. So, yesterday we had a story called Am I the Jerk for Calling My Mom When My Husband Refused to Listen to Me? And we have an update. So, let's hear this update. Edited to add an update. When my mother in law showed up, she was super angry outside. I could hear her shouting, but I couldn't understand what was being said. Once inside, she was shocked. My house looked really bad. My brother-in-law had lied to her about what had happened. My mother-in-law quickly started to help my mom in bossing mode. My house is not just cleaned, but deep cleaned. My brother-in-law and his kids are now staying with mother-in-law. She didn't know about the eviction. My in-laws helped them financially a couple of months ago. My mother-in-law was not happy about it. Sister-in-law refused to come out of the bedroom. She would scream through the door, but that was about it until her family came to pick her up. A little bit. I didn't talk to my husband. He seemed very remorseful. I asked for some space, and he is staying at a hotel. He asked to come by and talk to me tonight. My mom and dad are here. Both moms felt like I should have someone here since I am sick. Both moms have set up a meal plan where they trade off who will bring me dinner. It was my mother-in-law's idea. Thank you for all your advice. I truly appreciate it. I think this had a really nice resolution, and it was
Mm.
really nice in that the mother-in-law actually, when she found out that everyone was lying to her, she was not happy about it.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I think it just goes to show that when you're not given the full story, of course, you may think things are one way. And luckily, when she realized what was really going on, she stepped in to support OP. And it's good that OP has both moms in her corner now.
Yeah, and I read some more of the comments, and basically, mother-in-law didn't even know that they had moved in here. They didn't know the situation. So, whatever story they spun was completely different. So, it's just ridiculous. But I'm really glad OP has a nice, strong support system. So, it's great. So, let's move on to the next story. All right, folks, our first story is titled, Am I a Jerk? I didn't attend my son's wedding. I instead spent the evening with his ex-wife. Spicy, one might think. Quick backstory. After graduating high school, my son moved 3 states away for college. At 19, he married a girl that he met. I tried convincing him to wait because I personally felt that he was too immature. They both dropped out and moved back here to his hometown. At 20, they had their first child, a beautiful little girl. 16 months later, my daughter-in-law gave birth to their second child, a little boy. After the first baby, my wife and I noticed that our daughter-in-law wasn't happy. We both thought it was postpartum depression related. Just after the second arrived, my son and his wife separated. She would bring the kids over for a visit. It was then that she began unloading on us. I know that there's two sides to every story, but considering that I know my son, I believe her. I sat my son down numerous times to speak with him regarding this marriage. He refused to take responsibility, blamed her for everything, even when I directly pointed out where he was the sole problem. They got counseling. For a year, things were okay and on the surface. Our daughter-in-law filed for divorce. My son 3 days later was on Facebook announcing his new girlfriend. A month later, they were engaged. My son had forced his then wife to become a permanent stay-at-home mom at birth of the first child. She, of course, had no other family or friends here. She knew no one aside from us. She had nowhere to go with 2 small children. Unbeknownst to our son, my wife and I helped her financially and got her an apartment. Before the divorce was even finalized, we received a wedding invitation. I made it clear to my son that I would not be attending and they would not have my blessing. His mother told him that she would see to it that I would attend. I stayed consistent in my decision. I also asked him not to bring his fiancee around the house out of respect for the mother of his children. The wedding happened on February 11th, the night before my wife gave me the final push. I did not attend. Our daughter also did not attend for the same reason. My wife picked up our grandkids, got them dressed, and attended the wedding. My daughter and I decided to spend the evening with his ex. I couldn't imagine her sitting here alone while her kids attended their father's wedding. She was taken aback that I didn't end up attending his wedding. We took her out to distract her. I just wanted her to know that she'll always be considered family to us. My daughter also made a joke that they can drop the in-law status and just be sisters now. She was very tearfully grateful. I realized just how badly she needed our support, and specifically on that night. The next morning, my son called to tell me how much of a horrible father I am for not attending his wedding. A few days later, he caught wind that I had spent the evening with his ex. He said that it was the ultimate form of betrayal. And further, myself and my sister would have earned a relationship with him on his terms only. Alright, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Not the jerk, and you kind of get these vibes probably already, but he does make it a little more clear in some of his comments that the son was being manipulative. He was controlling his wife, and that was the cause of the split. So I think OP is very much not in the wrong here. And I'm going to steal a line from someone in Reddit. I've read it multiple times. A wedding is an invitation, not a summons.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not required
Yeah.
to go to anyone's wedding. But the fact that the son is just kind of being a garbage person, like, if someone's being a bad person, you don't have to support them.
The thing that seems to really stand out to me is it feels like he might have cheated on her too. I don't know if that was in the comments or not.
I don't know. I only read a very few, and it was early on, so there were, like, just a couple.
And because this is a very fast timeline for him to have found a girlfriend and then got married, because how is he going to find a girlfriend, a few
3 days later, yeah,
and then suddenly get married a month or engaged a month later? This had to have been going on for much longer. It just because they said that they weren't having an affair doesn't necessarily mean they weren't having an affair. So I don't think that the dad is in the wrong here, because he told his son what his boundary was. He said from the very beginning that he wasn't going to attend this wedding, and he did not condone it either. And I don't know, his son can make his own decisions, but he also has to respect his father's decisions as well.
Yeah, and you can't expect people to just excuse your bad behavior. I think it's very important for OP to make a stand and show that you have done something wrong, and we're not all just going to brush it aside and move on.
OP is showing that he is going to support his daughter here, and that nothing is going to change. And I think that's really important, especially with someone who was abused like this and mistreated like this. So I think that he's in the right here. Again, he's not required to attend his son's wedding. Anyhow, take care and good luck. Alright, folks, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Not Wanting My Fiance to Adopt Her Ex's Child? I'm a 47-year-old male, and I have a fiance, Annie, a 40-year-old female. And we've been together for 2 years and engaged for 6 months. A year before dating, Annie ended a long-term relationship with her now ex, a 38-year-old male, who has a daughter, Sophie, a 16-year-old female. Annie has been in that girl's life since she was 6 years old, but they never married. This didn't bother me until we got engaged. You see, Annie is very close with Sophie. They always talk on the phone, they go out 2 times a week, and my fiance rushes every time the girl has an emergency. I've asked Annie to tone it down a bit, but she insists that she can't leave Sophie alone, which doesn't make any sense to me. She broke up with that girl's dad. Why does she need to keep seeing her? I recently bought a house. Immediately, Annie designated one of the bedrooms to be Sophie's. That surprised me, and I asked her why, and she laughed, saying, "Where else is she going to sleep when she stays here?" I immediately replied, "Nowhere, she's not staying here," which made her angry. I just don't see why I should set up a bedroom with my money and spend time on someone else's daughter. I have enough with my fiance paying for that girl's school, gifts, and allowances. The dad is a loser with no ambition, which is why Annie dumped him. And yet, he keeps taking advantage of her. Finally, they broke up, so that girl should already be out of my fiance's life. If she were my stepdaughter, it would be different. I've dated single moms before, but biologically, they're nothing. I understand that over the years they formed a relationship, but that all had to end when Annie and her ex broke up. Well, a few weeks ago, her ex was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and he may not make it. This affected my fiance a lot, and the girl spent several nights in our house. I assumed it would only be for a few days until they made arrangements with extended family. But yesterday, Annie sat me down and said that she's been talking to a lawyer about legally adopting Sophie. Since they don't have any other family, she may end up in foster care. She would start living with us until she goes to college. Of course I said no, and told her that she must cut ties with that girl right now because I don't want to have that girl in my life, neither becoming her new stepdad. She got very angry. She said that Sophie is her daughter and that she raised her, and that she couldn't believe that I would be so heartless to ask her something like this in this situation. At night, they both packed and left to Annie's parents. I tried to talk to them, but they also called me heartless for wanting to abandon an innocent girl who's about to lose her dad. But none of that is my problem, and neither should it be my fiance's. So am I the jerk for asking my fiance to do the right thing and stay away from her ex's daughter? Alright folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Yeah, I think OP's being a major jerk here. Sophie is Annie's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know there's no legal or biological tie, but she raised her for years.
Well, and he's saying, well, if she was her daughter,
Mm-hmm.
like she's trying to adopt her.
Yeah.
Literally, she's trying to adopt her. She's trying to become her legal guardian, her legal parent, and you're still trying to throw a fuss at this.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like biology isn't everything, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And I just, it feels very gross how he's like, you should just cut ties and abandon this vulnerable person because you're not dating her dad anymore.
Now, look, bub. She's known Annie longer than she's known you. And if you and her can join together and be a family, then why should that be any different for her and Annie?
Yeah, well, and chosen family is just as important as, blood relatives,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes more, and so I think that she is well within her right to want to take care of her daughter. And if this is a relationship ending thing for like a deal breaker for OP, then, good riddance. But
Yeah, I honestly feel like the girlfriend, fiance should have seen the writing on the wall here because clearly he's not ever going to accept this relationship that they're going to have like this is going to be her daughter. He's making every excuse in the book to say no, this isn't your daughter. No, this isn't your daughter, and he refuses to listen to her. Now, it might be a little bit of a different situation if the dad was totally against this relationship and trying to withhold things, but this would be very similar to that other story we had a little while ago where the dad of 7 years wanted to stay in the kids' lives, but the mom was refusing to let them. I really do feel that found family is family,
mhm,
and in this particular case, OP's girlfriend is trying to take care of someone who she feels a connection to. I really feel like OP's in the wrong here.
yeah.
He's certainly, okay, let me phrase it this way. OP, you are certainly not obligated to deal with Annie or be in Annie's life, but that is going to come at the cost of your girlfriend. You can either choose to have, they're a package deal.
Yeah.
You can choose both or you can choose none.
Right. It's no different from dating a single mom like you've said you've done in the past.
Yeah,
Annie is a mom to Sophie, and that's the end of story.
plain and simple. So that's the decision you have. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Owls and Cardinal says, you're the jerk. You have a very rigid and unrealistic idea as to how family is formed. Hint, it's not only through blood. I have no idea why you have so much animosity towards a 16-year-old girl. I can understand to some extent why you and your fiance have different perspectives towards her motherhood, but she's right that you're acting heartless to expect her to cut the girl off entirely, especially given the latest development that may leave her an orphan. You should have talked through the financial and other obligations your fiance is shouldering a long time ago. But you are not in the right if you want to insist that she stays away from her ex's daughter. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I have some tea right here, and Amber has a joke for us.
Where does a snowman keep his money?
Well, I actually have a good friend who's a snowman. His name's Frost tea. He is a snowman entirely made out of tea. And he keeps his money inside of a tree stump. And he thinks that this is the most secure place ever. But the guy's got snow for brains. He doesn't realize that anyone who were maybe unscrupulous can come behind him and take money out of this stump. Not that I've ever personally done this, right? But, like, he can't count. He doesn't know whether or not they're missing. He can't. So, yeah, I mean, an old stump pretty much is where snowmen keep their money, and that's from personal experience.
A snowbank.
A snowbank. I made that way too complicated. And I have Earl Grey.
Doubly so.
Yes, I actually had Earl Grey earlier in the day today, and then we just added another tea bag into there because apparently Amber didn't want me drinking swill today. Alright, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Happy Friday! We made it to the end of the week, folks. I think we all need a break, so hopefully you're looking forward to the weekend if you have the weekend off. If not, then hopefully you have some day off in the near future. Amber, what is the moral of the story today?
I mean, I think one moral we can take away from our last story is that family is what you make it.
And I think that my moral is mom power.
Yes.
You can always rely on moms to get your back. So sometimes you can't always. No, not if anything. These stories have taught us you can't always rely on that. But most of the time, with good moms, you can. And thank goodness OP had a good mom.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you all tomorrow.
Bye.
Howdy, folks. I am an II in a mariachi band singing Ciali To Lindo.
I'm Amber.
1 second, let me actually get that right. Howdy, folks. I'm an II in a mariachi band singing Ciali To Lindo. It means sweetheart.
Mm.
Howdy, folks. I'm...